It's California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. You know already I'm a big science nerd, and so I am so excited to have a professor from Cal State Dominguez Hills join us today. He is a professor of management. You wouldn't think that would have a connection to science, but boy, does it ever. His name, Thomas Norman. What are you wearing on your face, sir?
Okay, well, this is Google Glass, so I'm one of the pioneers, one of the people who got early access to the beta edition. Basically, it's a computer with the capabilities of my iPhone or a Galaxy Note.
I'm stumped already. I can't believe I am looking at someone that is wearing Google Glass. I already know that I want to hear exactly how it's going to be adopted at Cal State Dominguez Hills, but let's back up. How did your school or how did you come to be an early pioneer of Google Glass, which really, is it even on the market? I mean,
well, I think it is now available to consumers, so you can, plunk more than $1,000 to get a pair of these if you'd like. But really, the founder of Sensei, which is a developer of Google Glass software, David, has joined our Hospitality Technology Institute. So that's an institute in the College of Business Administration, Public Policy. He gave a presentation on what are the applications because our faculty, our students, kind of want to be bleeding edge. We're trying to move from these smart classrooms at Dominguez Hills to what we call brilliant classrooms,
I love
right?
It.
So we live in an area. I just read in the newspaper that LA has more tech jobs than any other city, right? So why don't we embrace that and be like our colleagues here at Long Beach or Northridge?
I gotta ask you. I mean, a lot of great CSUs, a lot of great UCs. How did Dominguez Hills get to be the one?
Just relationships, right? Networking with David, who's a young person who happened to be on that team to help pioneer Google Glass. He, we built a connection, and he said, "Would you like to partner with us?" And I'm a nerd too. I love technology. I was like, when can I do this? When can I do this? So I was like, "Can you meet me in Santa Monica?" I said, "Sure." I'll drive up there. I went to their headquarters, the Google headquarters in Santa Monica, and I said, how do I become a beta user? And they said, just
sign here.
Sign here. And we signed up, and I've been playing with these all summer and spring.
And what's going to happen is in the spring semester, so just coming up, 2015, you will be using Google Glass in your classrooms.
Right. I was able to convince the dean to write out a bigger check, for 20 pair of Google Glass. And Sensei is developing software, some of the first educational software for Glass in the country, and if not the world.
So let's talk about how Dominguez Hills is going to use Google Glass because it is a very specific application.
Exactly.
You are working with students to create kind of better interpersonal skills in the context of management and business. And so what you've described to me is ingenious, if I may say. Explain how Google Glass is going to be used in your negotiation courses, your interview classes.
Sure. So what we're going to do is we're, based on the size of the class, if I have a class of 50, we only got 20 pairs, I said, right? So I'm going to do a lot of small group exercises, things like the marshmallow, building exercise, negotiation, simulations, etc. Going to give one pair of the Google Glass to one of the student team members, doesn't really matter who, and they're going to record each interaction. Now, ordinarily, if you remember being in one of those classes, the professor gets to listen in on maybe the first two groups in the front, goes to the middle, and then the time's up. So 3 groups, maybe 12 students get feedback, that expert feedback we all want. The rest kind of get a debrief and learn from each other. Now I'm going to be able to go back, could be on the beach with my Google Glass, watch these secure YouTube videos, because everything will get saved up to my private YouTube channel, and give them feedback. And I could give them verbal feedback from Glass, or I could sit on my computer, and type up, on my rubric, here's what you did well, here's an area of opportunity to improve. So for small group, discussions, this is going to really, I think, enable more feedback, right? This is the way technology helps me become more high touch versus a distance, an online MOOC course.
What about for interview skills? That also seems like a very unique application.
Well, exactly, right? If I was recording this, right now, I could get my perspective on what I'm doing well in this interview and where I might want to improve. We're going to do the same thing with the folks learning to do employment interviews. Not only will I be able to watch every mock interview done to say, oh, that was an illegal question, or here's how you put somebody more at ease, they're going to be able to go back, and the way I improved my public speaking was the old-fashioned way with a video camera, sitting down and watching tape, right? So this is just a really easy-to-use camera, which isn't right in front of my face. I'm able to make eye contact with you. The camera's doing the recording. I'll still get about the same point of view and be able to look at this as many times as I like afterwards.
Here's another application I think is brilliant, and that deals with an application known as polling. It can be both in an examination model or just a feedback model. So you have a sense whether your students are understanding what is being discussed. Explain the polling feature.
Sure. So imagine, I've just been giving a lecture, 5 minutes on whichever theory it is, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I want to find out if the class gets it. Because sometimes, your students look a little sleepy. So it'll be like, okay, everybody, wake up. Here's a slide that shows, A, B, C, or D, which best represents that particular theory. They'll be able to, with their fingers, silently, scroll through the choices, or actually you could go head up, head down, A, B, C, tap, and I'll instantly get feedback on what percentage of the class gets it. I don't know that I want to use it for testing because this is a computer, right? So they could be looking things up. But for polling, no reason, not to do a check-in. We've got an innovative provost, John, who's always doing polling at faculty meetings. You're trying to get, quick votes on what should we invest in as Dominguez Hills. Should it be Google Glass? My project, it would have been nice to have this to just say how many think that this will help put us on the map. Because, we're in a crowded area. It's hard for Dominguez Hills to kind of stand out sometimes.
So how will a teacher, a professor, be able to take advantage of this polling technology? Explain to me, if all of a sudden you look up and you see maybe 50% got the question right, what does that tell you?
Well, that means 50%, maybe needs some reinforcement. I might go back 2 slides and, reteach the material or come up with an exercise, right? And maybe then pass the glass out to everybody saying, we're going to really make this hit home. I do this all the time with economics. Supply and demand, I can talk about it, or I can do something called the M&M experiment. We could actually kind of record how we derive a supply and demand curve for a little packet of M&Ms real time. Somebody's still not even getting it from that interactive experience, well, then they can go watch the video later, right?
And how do you make sure, here's an example. I was an adjunct professor once, actually for several years, and I became a professor when people started to bring tablets, computers, not iPads, into the classroom. And I could tell that one of the students was surfing on the internet. He was not watching the lecture. He was playing. So I opened my computer, and this is when we had AOL Instant Messenger. I mean, that I think is, passé. And I insta-messaged him during class, please pay attention to the lecture.
Brilliant.
Down it went. Okay, I don't know if it's polite.
Could do the same thing, right? Have a ding at his temple and a little warning screen saying it's my glass, right? I got the programming saying, hey, wake up, pay attention.
But my question is, how do you make sure that the student is not surfing?
Well, seeing it's ours and we're going to control the software, if I don't want him to surf for that class, we will not enable the web, right? It'll only, like I told you with the YouTube, just imagine the things that young college people could do with this camera that could embarrass the university if I didn't control where it's going to go. So their video will only go to a channel seen by me, so if they do anything inappropriate, I'll quickly delete that and write them up if need be. But I actually think it's going to help them stay more on task. Imagine those group projects where people start talking about the Dodgers, not advancing instead of what I want them working on. There's not going to be a record of that, right? So I'll be able to say, hey, Brad, let's stay on topic here next week.
Where do you go from here in 3 years, in 5 years? Can you envision?
Here's the applications I hear the developer talking about. Nothing I can commit that we're going to do.
Of course.
But attendance. It's maybe a little spooky, but if everybody has glass, it knows who it is. They can do retinal scanning, so I could know it's you in my class, not somebody else. Big class where I don't know everybody by face. At Dominguez, we're small, I do.
But still.
But there, I get instant attendance, checked. What else have they talked about? And if I want, say I'm terrible with names and I forgot your name was Brad, it could actually, as I look at you, I could see, oh, Brad, make sure I use your name to increase that connection.
It could scan a seating chart. It would pull up a seating chart.
And in 3 years, right, we're speculating. I understand the facial recognition technology is pretty good. If we had that in the database, right, it might even be able to get to that level, but certainly a seating chart. So,
so someone moves in the room, facial recognition.
As long as it gets a good shot, right? I mean, that's where, the exciting or creepy future is. I mean, you hear about people, getting stalked or punched for wearing this. I mean, technology can be abused. It's why I don't want cell phone cameras in the Y locker room with my little kids, right? So we've got to slowly, advance in ways that aren't going to invade our privacy. But I think we could sacrifice some of that for that deeper connection with the professor. At least that's my hope. I like my students. I want them to know I care.
No doubt. His name is Thomas Norman. He's a pioneer at Cal State Dominguez Hills with Google Glass. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.